What's up? I'm John Middlekauff, host of the GoLow podcast. You can find it below in the description. Also, you're watching this on the Volumes YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe, share it with all your friends. John Middlekauff, GoLow pod. What a day to be recording a golf podcast. We have Phil, we got DJ, we got LIV, we got team names, which I actually think are kind of funny. It's crazy. The LIV is dominated today. Well, let's call a spade a spade. They won. Simple fact that this kind of worked in the sense of they got to own the week going up against the RBC, and we're obviously going to dive all into that. I'm wearing my Tiger Woods hat in solidarity with my man Eldrick Tiger Woods, who is not playing in the U.S. Open, and it feels like it's an afterthought. Now, in fairness, I think after the way the PGA Championship, he was really struggling. He withdrew. I think we all assumed that he was not going to play at the Country Club here in a week and would just try to make it to the Open Championship at St. Andrews, which he said before is his favorite course in the world. So while it's news because he tweeted it out, I think we all assumed in the golf world, those of us that follow the sport, that Tiger was probably not going to play in the U.S. Open. Now, our boy Phil, I don't think I expected him. One, he didn't join LIV last week. We'll dive into Phil. We'll dive into DJ. We'll dive into LIV. I'll have a lot of thoughts there. We'll talk to Sobel about his reaction. He's talked to a lot of people in professional golf, the PGA Tour. Are they rattled? Just the whole thing. Let's start overall. Listen, I think initially LIV was hoping to land a bunch of guys in the top 50. They basically landed Gooch, Sergio, and DJ. They were hoping for some Brysons, maybe land like a JT, Rory type, and they didn't. Though I think it's inevitable that Bryson and even Ricky Fowler, while no longer being a top 50 player, is easily one of the most famous golfers. So LIV, the PGA Tour is unique because as my buddy Jeff Schwartz, who played in the NFL for a long time, really struggled to understand. He texted me the other day, how can the PGA Tour allow these guys to do this? Baseball, football, basketball would never allow this. I said, well, they are not under contract with these individuals in the sense of you're not a W-2 employee. You're a 1099 guy. You have to pay. If I'm on the Golden State Warriors, when I flew back to Boston to play in the NBA Finals, I don't pay for anything. Joe Lacob plays for the flight. I get per diem for my food. They feed me. They put me up in a hotel. They cover all the expenses. That's not how golf works. When Dustin Johnson went to the PGA Championship, went to Augusta, went to Riviera, he compensates his flight. So it's very unique that way. They are independent contractors. That's why I've said over and over, the PGA Tour is going to, regardless whether you stand on the side of an organization or whether you stand on the side of the employee, it's pretty clear they're going to lose this fight. You cannot tell someone where they can and cannot work in this situation when they're a 1099 employee. It's why an Uber driver is also allowed to drive for Lyft and also deliver for DoorDash. The PGA Tour is essentially saying that if they were Uber, you're not allowed to drive for Lyft and you're not allowed to drive for DoorDash. And these players are like, screw you. Now, a lot of players, especially the rich ones, have taken hardline stances. Well, JT, Jordan, those guys have a ton of money, so it's easy for them to do that. Taylor Gooch took the stance of I don't even aspire to do that. Maybe I do, but I'm going to go take the money. Why? Because money talks and shit walks. If Jordan Spieth and Rory and some of these guys didn't have the astronomical amount of wealth they had, they easily could have been wooed by this thing. But you can't convince me that the PGA Tour is not really, really rattled. Because whatever happens this weekend, I don't know how much I'm going to watch. Probably not much. I'll consume a little bit on my computer or phone, see some stuff on Twitter. But here's what's going to happen. At the end of the weekend, payouts are going to happen. Someone is going to win $4 million. Another guy is going to win $3 million. Another guy is going to win $2 million. If you win $2 million, I haven't looked at the purse for the RBC Canadian Open this weekend. There's a chance that the winner there gets 1.8. There's a chance that third or fourth place at this event makes more money than the winner on the PGA Tour. And here's the other thing. There is no cuts. I am not pro-Saudi Arabia. I do not pretend to be pro Greg Norman, but I do understand they got something going for them. The reason all these other leagues historically have always failed, whether it's the USFL, I guess in my lifetime there's never been a competition in basketball. They never have enough money. They run out of the funds. Remember when COVID hit and the AAF canceled? It ended, immediately went bankrupt. They don't have the money. Vince McMahon's like, I'm not going to fund this. You know what the Saudis have? Unlimited amount of cash. I mean, there are rumors out there there's $200 million waiting for Bryson DeChambeau. If Bryson DeChambeau lives up to the hype and lives up to his potential, he will never, in a million years, earn $200 million on the golf course. It will not happen. Tiger Woods, who won all the majors, all the tournaments, has a career earnings of like $120 million. Now, obviously, as a golfer, you make a lot off the course. But when they're paying these guys, like ultimately last year or last week when DJ went, as time went on, they gave him $125, potentially $150 million. And I see so many of the media elites, and listen, I'm a fan of Brandel Chambly. I love the Golf Channel. It's my favorite channel on television. But I think him and some of the other big J's, they get so morally superior. It's like, hey guys, no one's offering you that much money. Now you can argue, I respect Jordan, because ultimately Jordan and Rory, think about this. To me, the two biggest properties, non-Tiger, and it's clear that Tiger turned down close to $1 billion. Well, Tiger was bought in 1997 by corporations. Tiger is worth $1 billion potentially right now. Tiger has, and listen, I say it all the time, the most powerful thing you can ever say in business, and you could argue life, but definitely in business, is no. It increases your value. What did DJ say originally? No. When they offered him $60 million. Well, he ended up quadrupling that. Maybe not that, but 3Xing that, 2Xing that. He got more. When you make someone chase you in business, you get more cash. And Tiger just doesn't need the money. He has a stupid amount. Well, Jordan and Rory are also two guys worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And there was a report last week that they turned down astronomical offers. Because if DJ, who I respect DJ, he's won 24 times on tour, he's won multiple majors, he's easily one of the best players of the last couple decades, not named Tiger or Phil. And you could argue he's every bit the equal of Rory or Jordan. I know those guys have a couple more majors, but when DJ was on, he could easily beat those guys. We all acknowledge that. But he's not the personality or the draw that those guys would be. So if DJ's worth 150, what are Rory and Jordan worth? 400? Because to me, Bryson, when I see that he's potentially worth 200, he's a needle mover. And if Bryson DeChambeau commits to LIV, whether it's this year or next year, that is a fucking body blow to the PGA Tour. Because they only have so many needle movers. And Bryson is easily one of them. Now, they're lucky that Rory and Jordan are very loyal to them and don't want to leave. But eventually, here's what I would wonder if I'm the PGA Tour. They have more money than us. And usually when someone has more money than you, they can beat you in a competition when it comes to business because they can pay more for your employees. They can pay more for stuff. Here's the other thing that LIV brings to the table. They don't work as much. They play 3-day tournaments. They aren't going to have as many tournaments of the PGA Tour. Listen, I'm a golf fanatic. I love watching Riviera. I love watching the Arnold Palmer. I love watching a lot Bay Hill. Here's the reality. Most people don't. The majority of human beings watch maybe the players and the majors. And here's the reality of LIV. These guys, more than likely, are going to be able to continue to play in the majors. So if you can make 50, 100, $200 million, I also read today on social media that the caddies, who pays for the caddies when they travel around? Either themselves or they have an arrangement with the player. They have to compensate it on their own or the player has to take care of them on the PGA Tour. You know who pays for the caddies' expenses? Pays for their food, pays for their lodging, pays for their travel. In LIV. The caddies don't pay anything, and they're getting more money. When I see the Guy Left Golf Channel, someone leaves this. Of course they do. They're offering triple the amount of money. Every decision we make in life, and I've said forever, you should never make a decision strictly based on money when it's not that big of a difference. If you make $150,000 and another company offers you $180,000, well, if you love the company you work for, you like the people you work for, you like your responsibilities, and you have to move, it doesn't pencil. But if you make $150,000 and you love the place you work, and someone comes in with an offer of $600,000, you would be doing your family a disservice to not only seriously consider it, more likely to take the job. There is a reason in football Most coaches leave being a coordinator in great spots, whether it's at Alabama, whether it's for Belichick, whether it's whoever, to become a head coach. Because as a coordinator, you make $2 million. The moment you become a head coach, you usually make 6 or 7. You can't pass up that type money. Now, I have no problem with anyone taking the money, and I have no problem with anyone turning it down. But here's the simple reality. As this cash flows, and it is flowing, and unlike a lot of businesses that get funded by venture capitalists or get funded by one rich guy, eventually the faucet gets turned off because they go, we are not getting the ROI on our investment. You know who doesn't give one shit right now about the ROI? And I hear a lot of like the people saying, well, eventually they will. Well, maybe eventually they won't care because they have an endless supply of cash. So for the foreseeable future, let's just say the next 5 years, they won't think for 1 second how many people watch the YouTube channel, how many people care about this event, as long as it's working, as long as they are moving the needle, and as long as they are getting players. And as these payments are being paid out, let alone the lump sums, but the tournaments, when a random guy wins $2 million and I'm a great player and I get 30th and the PGA Tour pays me 75, people are going to continue to leave. And if Bryson leaves, the PGA Tour will be rattled because they need that guy. And I'm telling you, I think he's going to leave. And so do most people. And when we look at Phil Mickelson, he's 51 years old. He clearly, I give him some credit he did an interview with SI and he talked openly about gambling. Now, obviously, we're sponsored by gambling here on The Volume. I've been gambling. He had a quote in there that I thought was very relatable to myself. I've been gambling as long as I can remember. I relate to that. I have been gambling as long as I can remember. I don't remember when I was 12 years old. I started gambling when I was 15 or 16. We used to sneak into a casino. I was a golfer. We used to gamble on the golf course. I'm 37 years old. I've been gambling over half my life. And I've been in positions where I've gambled too much and I've lost money. I've also been in positions where I've won some money. I love to gamble. So do Phil. So do most people I associate with. I think there's a chance. Now, I would always stop myself because I didn't have an unlimited amount of money. So if I lost 10 grand, I'd be in some trouble. I might not be able to pay a mortgage. I might not be able to pay some bills. Phil could lose millions upon millions of dollars. And it was reported that Phil Mickelson lost $40 million. Well, once I read some of his quotes in the SI article, I think he's lost hundreds of millions of dollars. Now, luckily, Phil Mickelson is worth $700-800 million, and losing $200 million, like he said, is reckless and embarrassing. It didn't ruin his life. It didn't ruin his family's life, and it didn't bankrupt him. He was lucky, but he had a problem. Listen, I think it's easy to kind of get on the line because alphas, aggressive people, like I'm not trying to compare myself to Phil Mickelson, but I love the juice of gambling. I don't even love the juice. Like, I don't gamble to make money. I work to make money. I gamble for entertainment. I gamble for fun. It gets me going, just like a lot of people that I know in my life. Most people I know are big gamblers. Why? Because it's the juice. It's the fun of it all. And I've never lost an amount of money that crippled me. Clearly, Phil, I don't care if you're worth $500 million. You lose $200 million. And again, I'm just guessing this, but the way he's talking, $40 million when you're worth $800, whatever. Is that reckless? Yeah, it's not that big a deal. Money's all relative. Like, I think he needs this money. So when you see they're paying him $200 million, first and foremost, at 51 years old, how could Phil Mickelson, even if he had never blown any money, turn down $200 million? Now, you could say for his reputation. With who? The internet? Like, who honestly? My question is this. The Saudis do shady shit, as do a lot of countries, right? We're balls deep in China. They do horrendous shit. We're in business with them all. So the Saudis are offering him a ton of money. And if he turns it down, he gets an applause from who? Twitter? The media? He takes it. Who really is that mad at him? Like, if he needs the money, he takes the money. It's the reason we all eventually do things for money. That's the way the world works. That's the way America works, capitalism. Now you can say, is it the right move? Legacy, his reputation? Yeah, that's all fair. But I think, and I've been saying over and over and over again, if you want to justify your move, instead of bullshitting all these comments that Phil kind of put in his statement or the DJ talked about, just tweet the number. If I was Dustin Johnson, I'd say, listen, resigning from the tour, all the other fluff I'm talking about. Guys, they gave me $150 million. If you were sitting in my shoes, you would have taken it too. And if we all didn't pretend to be something we're not, would agree with them. Phil Mickelson, they gave me $200 million. I don't have quite the money Tiger does. I didn't have, whether it's the security, whatever, to turn down $800 million like Tiger Woods. I didn't. I can respect Jordan and Rory for turning it down, but I didn't. I couldn't. If I'm Taylor Gooch, they gave me $40 million. Kevin Na, they gave me $35 million. That is relatable, not because we have that much money or ever will have that much money, because if we were in their shoes, we would do the same thing. And the PGA Tour will never, ever have the ability to give them that money. The way they're set up as a charity, 501c, that's never going to happen. I think sometimes the problem with golf, as someone who's just, I'm all in on football and golf. In football, we openly talk about money. We celebrate big contracts. We argue big contracts. We talk about the cash, how much coaches are making, how much the star quarterbacks are making. It's all about the money. In golf, we love to be like, well, they're playing for the Wanamaker. Well, they're playing for the legacy. No, they're literally playing for fucking cold, hard cash, for money. And until you make enough, you're never secure, because on the PGA Tour, you can lose your card, you can lose your status. And the PGA Tour in golf is always, what's weird is golf's the number one gambling sport. Anyone that plays golf, you're always gambling with a buddy, whether it's $1, whether it's $5, whether it's $500, whether it's for dinner. Yet we never feel comfortable talking about it. It's a lot like college football, where it's like, hey guys, you're paying the players. You've been playing the players for 50 years. No one gives a shit. We just want to watch college football, college basketball. We don't care. But they're always kind of beat around the bush. No different with golf. Jim Nantz never wants to talk about the money on the CBS. Like, this putt is for $800,000. That is interesting. And if LIV embraces that, the money, that is fascinating. The media will call them scumbags. They'll resent it. They resent business. Most humans were fascinated by it. We're drawn to it. And the PGA Tour is in this tough spot where they can't pay people to show up. That's against the rules of their business model. Now, they can do this fake PIP. They gave out $40 million. There's a chance that Sergio Garcia was literally just paid $40 million to go to LIV. How is the PGA Tour big picture going to compete if LIV doesn't go away? Because if they don't go away, the PGA Tour is in major trouble. I'll promise you. Just because it's natural, people are going to gravitate. Ultimately, DJ is a great example. He couldn't turn down the money. And he originally said the most powerful thing you could say, no, I'm good, guys. I'm going to stay with the PGA Tour. I'm good. And then they said, what's your number, bro? And then he threw something out. Well, let's just say it happened that way. And he threw out a number like any of us would. What would you want if you could get it? And you throw out a number, you write it on a piece of paper, you hand it to the shark. And then he says, no problem. In. Done deal. A lot of people are, okay, well, I'm in then, right? Who would not take more money to work less? Spend more time with your family. Now, I'm a PGA Tour aficionado. I love the PGA Tour. But most people don't. It's not like the majors are huge and Tiger's big, but there's a reason golf, like ultimately the Byron Nelson or Bay Hill, just isn't that interesting to a large percentage of people. They'll get 1.5 or 2 million people to watch, but for the most part, the fields are very hit or miss. My favorite tournament of the year is Pebble Beach. But now, because the Saudis pay people to go, the Pebble Beach field is terrible. The only big name there is really Jordan, because he's an AT&T guy. If Jordan was sponsored by Nike or Aquafina, he would probably be in Saudi. Even if he wasn't joining the LIV, they would pay him so much money to go to that tournament. Instead, he's at AT&T at Pebble Beach. But for the most part, look who's competitive at Pebble Beach. It's like Tom Hoagie versus Berger versus Jordan Spieth. The top guys aren't walking through that door anymore. RIV is somewhat unique, but that's Tiger's tournament. But I'm telling you, beside the majors and the players, it's not as big, I think, as some of the true diehards. And to be a huge business and to print cash, you need to get more casual fans, and it's going to be hard as it splinters. And I think, say what you want about Greg Norman, egomaniac. If you saw the picture, big penis. He's onto something. And the only reason he has a chance is because he's funded shady people with unlimited amount of money. And they're just not going to go away. Like Taylor Gooch is not going to be the first. Like if you told me there are some other big names between 25 and their early 30s in the next 12 months that become, I would bet $10,000 right now, beside Bryson and Ricky, they get another, holy shit, this guy's leaving the PGA Tour in the next year. I bet I wouldn't even hesitate putting $10,000 on the table. And you could argue I'd feel pretty good about multiple names. Now, I'm not saying it's Rahm or Jordan, but if you tell me Joaquin Niemann, Victor Hovland, I'm just throwing out some random names. Like, you're going to get top 25 players because that's what the PGA Tour, you have to earn all your money as a player. Why wouldn't you go to a tour where you just get it handed to you? It's basic human nature. Even if these guys are all high achieving, high workers, it's just basic math. It really is. Now, how good the product's going to be, I don't know. What the incentive for DJ to stay good, I don't know. But you obviously want to stay good because you still want to win the majors. But things change. Like, I'm not saying the PGA Tour is completely screwed and going to go away. But if you told me we look back in 5-10 years and it splintered it and it was never the same, like I could see that happening. If the Saudis never tap out, and I don't see any desire for them to tap out given the money. So this is, Tiger left today and said he wasn't going to play in the U.S. Open, and it felt like an afterthought. It really did. And I can't wait, I repeat, can't wait to see Phil at the U.S. Open. I mean, you talk about a press conference that's going to be an absolute circus. I mean, sign me up for that. Phil's got the beard. Phil's got a little midlife crisis. He looks like he's got the leather jacket going. Let's go through some of the names. DJ's team name is Four Aces. Don't hate it. Kevin Na's name is Ironheads. That's terrible. Louis Stinger, not bad. Martin Keimer, Cleeks. No clue what that means. Peter Uline, how is he a captain? The Crushers. Phil's the High Flyers. I think my favorite, though, because it feels like a movie name, is Sergio's team is called the Fireballs. I think a lot of people have been making fun of the Fireballs. Not going to lie, don't totally hate it. I hope eventually we can institute some people wearing the clothing with this, plastered all over them, which I think is inevitable. But I'm telling you, as someone who questioned this, I wouldn't say I danced on the grave, but I thought it was over. I've completely changed my tune. I think this is going to have major, major ramifications for years to come if the Saudis don't back out. And listen, why would they? I mean, what if it works? Back at it again on a pretty explosive week, I would call it. The opening of LIV Golf with my man Jason Sobel. You can hear him Monday through Wednesday, Sirius XM 2 to 4. Find him all over Twitter, his Twitter account, and writing about betting this week on the PGA Tour. I haven't seen any early lines on LIV Golf, as well as his podcast, Links and Locks Action Network. Sobel, you're a busy man. What's up, bro?
John, I walked away from my phone for 4 minutes earlier today, and I missed an entire news cycle. I mean, seriously, it's like golf. People think golf is a slow-moving sport. Just follow it on social media on a Monday or Tuesday. The thing moves faster than anything right now. Gosh.
Well, before we dive into the LIV, let's start with a couple headliners. We now know that Phil Mickelson will play in the U.S. Open, and the guy that always got the best of him, Eldrick Tiger Woods, is now out of the U.S. Open. Your thoughts?
Yeah, so we were saying a month ago at the PGA Championship, man, a year ago, you never would have thought that Phil would be out and Tiger would be in. And then a month ago, you never would have thought Tiger would be out for the U.S. Open and Phil would be in. Like I said, things are changing very, very quickly in the world of golf. I hope Tiger gets healthy, and I hope he can go play the Open Championship, because as I've been saying for a few months, I've always believed that that's the one he's got circled on his calendar, that he thinks he can go to St. Andrews and compete, maybe even contend for that event. So hopefully he gets healthy. Not a huge surprise that Tiger's not playing at Brookline. The fact that Phil's coming back, I mean, it's very interesting to me. Skip the Masters, skip the PGA Championship, where he had a chance to tell everybody all about his win from last year, but he will go play the U.S. Open. I mean, it's hypothetical. He's 51 years old. He hasn't played competitive golf now in 4 or 5 months. Can you imagine Phil Mickelson going to Brookline next week and winning the U.S. Open, the one that's always eluded him, and then going back to LIV Golf, plays an event in Portland 2 weeks later and celebrates his U.S. Open victory in the career Grand Slam? The world is weird right now, man.
I mean, is it safe to say, I don't think Tiger's that much of a shock how much physically he was struggling. So that's not that crazy. But Phil, who I don't know if you saw, he did an interview with like SI and he talked about how he needed time away, but he is unlike, we'll dive into DJ and McDowell and I guess McDowell didn't, but Nah did resign from the PGA Tour. And you can help us better understand that. Phil has claimed, I'm not resigning from the PGA Tour. Obviously his lifetime status, which is what, like 15 years and 20 plus wins on tour. Yep, so exactly. He is exempt whenever he wants to play. I guess just your thoughts on Phil and some of his quotes and now coming back. I mean, are you surprised? What's your take on Phil Mickelson as of the information we have today?
Yeah, none of it should be a surprise. Look, we've known for months that this was going to happen at some point. Maybe it's a little bit of a surprise that the list for LIV Golf's first event came out last week and Phil's name wasn't on it. And we thought, oh, maybe he's had a change of heart. Maybe it didn't work out. My guess is after DJ signed for a reported 125 to 150 million, Phil might have made $50 million more himself just by waiting, by sitting on his hands and saying, I don't know, I'll think about it. We'll see what's going to happen. I'm guessing the folks that run LIV Golf at some point got a little worried and said, fine, you know what? We'll give you whatever you want. Come on over to London. We need you to play in this thing. This was always the plan. And so I'm guessing that Phil did pretty well for himself, just sort of waiting and waiting and waiting. That said, the fact that some of these guys are resigning from the PGA Tour, from what I understand.
Well, yeah, what does that mean? What does that mean?
So Jay Monahan, the commissioner for the PGA Tour, has been saying for months, hey, if you go play LIV Golf, we are going to take disciplinary action against you. Now, what is that disciplinary action? We have no idea, because I don't think the tour has any idea, because the lawyers are going through everything and trying to figure out what disciplinary action you can take against a player who decided to go play another tour. I don't know what it can be. It can be a suspension. It can be a fine. It can be a banishment. I have no idea what it can be, but they haven't announced that. The speculation, though, is that if the PGA Tour suspended a player who is still a member of that tour, that player, if qualified, Dustin Johnson is a great example, for the major championships, then couldn't go play the majors because they uphold those suspensions from the PGA Tour. But if you resign from the PGA Tour, well, they can't enforce disciplinary action against you. And so if Dustin Johnson or other players resign from the PGA Tour, well, there's no suspension. They can then go play the major championships. It's all a big catch-22, but I do understand kind of where they're going with it right now.
So when Kevin Na and DJ say they resigned, it's safe to say they plan on playing the 4 majors moving forward, right?
I would think so. And I would think the 4 majors are planning on having them. I've seen some thought as to, hey, they should, the USGA and the RNA, they should ban these guys and not let them play the majors. I don't see why they would necessarily have a dog in the hunt. They're not related to the PGA Tour. Sure, there's a partnership there, and sure, there's things they work on together. It's a sanctioned event, but I don't see why the USGA would necessarily care if a player who's 23rd in the world is playing the PGA Tour or LIV Golf. They're saying, well, you're qualified for our event. You're allowed to come in. And quite frankly, it would be a really bad look for either of those opens to say to a player, you went to LIV Golf, you can't play. That's what it's all about. I mean, Rory McIlroy said it's the most democratic golf tournament in the world. If you're good enough, you qualify, you get in. For them to say, no, you can't do it, it essentially makes the U.S. Open closed instead of the U.S. Open.
Well, we talked last week on Tuesday morning, and then Tuesday afternoon, Phil is a big story because of his name, but we all knew he was inevitably going here. Yeah. DJ said, I'm out. And then on Tuesday afternoon, a week ago, DJ said, I'm in. And you've now had a week covering this, talking to people about it. Obviously, the money is kind of out there, 125, 150 million. He talked this morning. Just tell me your reaction to DJ announcing he's in, and just over the week, what you've learned about the situation with him specifically.
The sense that I've gotten is that 3 days before the announcement was made last week, Dustin Johnson was not part of this, that he had said 3 months earlier, hey, it's not for me. I'm going to stick with the PGA Tour. And then they just kept throwing money at him, and he kept getting a little bit more interested. And he kept thinking about, hey, I've got a young family at home, and I don't necessarily need to go play every single week on the PGA Tour. Look, these guys are going to play 8 events. They're 3-round events. It's 24 days out of the year. They're going to have 340 days off and get paid maybe 10 times, 15 times more than they were making already. It's other than if you can get over the ethical and moral decisions of it, which granted, that's a major part of it. And there is sports washing going on. I just wrote another story about it, sort of explaining kind of what this all means and what these players are doing. They're essentially complicit in trying to change the messaging from the Saudi Arabian government from, hey, it's a murderous regime that has a nefarious human rights record to, oh, they give opportunities to some of the world's best golfers and let them go play golf over there. It's a changing world, and they're complicit in, letting Saudi Arabia change that opinion of what they are. But look, everybody's got a price, and I get it. I mean, if someone comes to you and they say, hey, we want you to work for some really bad people, but you're going to work 3 times less and get paid 3 times more. You say, all right, well, I can sort of make do with that. Maybe it's, hey, I won't do it for 3 times more. How about 10 times more? They're bad people. I don't know if I want to do it. How about 20 times more? You know what? They're not that bad. I can get along with this. At some point, everybody's got a price.
Does DJ, obviously he has 20 plus wins, and you could probably, I don't know exactly, has he been on the tour for 15 years? He claimed today he was. Does he fall under that Phil category, lifetime exemption as a PGA Tour member? Yeah,
exactly. And you're right. I think he may have another year or two to claim that lifetime exemption, but essentially
he has the win number.
Yes, it's very interesting, the fact that Phil says, no, I'm a lifetime member of the PGA Tour. I don't want to give that up. And Phil thinks he can fight it and win. And I'm not sure that he's wrong about that. I think that Phil's probably got a good sense of what he's going to do. He's got a good team of lawyers that he's worked with for a long time on a lot of things. Dustin Johnson says, hey, I'm just going to resign from the PGA Tour instead of trying to fight it and use that lifetime membership. My guess is DJ just doesn't care. DJ's like, what do you want me to do? Go play in Greensboro later this year when there's no event on the LIV Golf Tour and try to fight it? He goes, I don't want to fight it. Goes,
but doesn't DJ know some of the, if Phil fights it and wins, then he can just piggyback off that, right?
Maybe. Now it might be a little bit different now that he's resigned as opposed to staying as a member and not resigning. I don't know where the language would cut that off. So again, there's so much. I feel bad, John. I've been doing interviews. I've been hosting shows for the last week, let alone, the last 3 months, and everyone's asking these questions. I'm like, maybe not. There's so much unknown here.
Well, as obviously the Masters, if you win it, you get a lifetime exemption.
Sure.
The Open, the British Open, as I call it, you get a lifetime exemption as well, correct?
It's close. You get to play until
60 years old.
60 years old, yeah.
The U.S. Open is not now, right? It's 10 years
10
after
years,
you win.
Correct. Yep.
Gotcha. So DJ is exempt like Phil, Masters forever.
Yep.
The U.S. Open, he has another 5-6 years, and he hasn't won the other 2. So, and Phil can play the Open until he's 60.
Right. And here's a big part of it. And it factors in less for a DJ and a Phil and more for maybe a guy like Lee Westwood or Sergio Garcia. But what happens here is that right now there are no official world golf ranking points for the LIV Golf events. The way you get into the major championships, other than winning a PGA Tour event, other than winning a major championship and having that exemption, is being in the top 50 of the world ranking. That's one of the easiest ways for these elite level players to get in. By playing in the LIV Golf events, these guys are not getting any world ranking points. And so there's no way to keep moving up in that ranking and staying there. So a guy like Lee Westwood, I don't know what Lee's rank is right now. It's probably somewhere around 50. He's going to start losing points. He's never won a major championship, so he's not qualified for them already. So he's essentially giving up on, hey, I can go win a major championship someday, and saying, I'm just going to go play LIV Golf, as opposed to a Phil or a DJ who they should be qualified for a while. I mean, I don't think DJ is going to fall out of the top 50 for a while. Phil's got the exemption from winning the PGA last year for at least 5 years and everything. So they're not too worried about it.
Obviously guys don't play in every event, but for all the big events, non-majors, for the most part, 80% of the guys that matter do. I mean, DJ, Nah, Louis, Phil, Sergio, Gooch. I mean, these are now spots on the PGA Tour for guys, right, to take advantage. I mean, those guys are not going to be in just the Byron Nelson or Riv, we assume, right? So aren't there just going to be more opportunities for younger players or guys on the fringe to take advantage of those?
Nobody from the PGA Tour is ever going to admit this. Nobody from LIV Golf is ever going to admit this. I think that at some point, John, this could wind up being mutually beneficial for everybody involved. You get essentially the PGA Tour gets rid of a lot of players. Not that they want to get rid of them necessarily, but gets rid of guys on the back nine of their careers who are in their 40s, who aren't necessarily major drawing cards anymore. The players themselves, they get paid and they get to play less golf, which is something they all want at this stage in their careers. Louis Oosthuizen said today that he's always thought about retiring at the age of 40. This gives him a chance at essentially being semi-retired and being able to go work on his farm, which he's always wanted to do. And then LIV Golf gets to showcase guys with some big names that's kind of what they want to do as well. Just have some big names playing golf and again, altering the messaging that they're trying to do. It could work out for everybody. The PGA Tour gets to replace these guys, not necessarily a 1-for-1 deal, but essentially gets to replace a Louis Oosthuizen and a Sergio Garcia, Lee Westwood with the 22-year-old stud coming out of Oklahoma State.
Thagala, Davis Riley, the next group of those type guys.
Right.
Obviously, a lot of people around the governing body of the PGA Tour. Is it safe to say that they're rattled, nervous right now? Rattled,
nervous, worried, angry. Yeah, I think you run the gamut of emotions. And yes, I would say all of those things. I don't know, just looking at it from the outside, I don't know that the PGA Tour was fully prepared for what's happened exactly. I think they always kind of knew, okay, this is coming. It's on the horizon. We'll deal with it. We'll tell players, hey, we're going to take disciplinary action against you if you do this. And that should be enough. That'll be enough to keep the players. They're not really going to have a mass exodus and all go over and play this LIV Golf thing. I think it's hit them pretty hard. I think the last week and a half, 2 weeks has hit the PGA Tour harder than they ever thought it would. I think
is that because of Dustin Johnson and Taylor Gooch? Those two names specifically probably had to be the frontliners.
Yes, I would think maybe even less DJ. I mean, just because DJ's, again, he's towards the end of his career. We never thought DJ was going to be playing PGA Tour champions when he's 62 years old. I mean, he's got a lot of money. He's got other interests. He's not going to be playing that much.
Bernhard Langer and DJ aren't the same.
Yeah, not exactly. He's not going to be the next Hal Irwin. I will say the two names that I think really scare the PGA Tour, and again, this is just from an outsider's perspective, Taylor Gooch and Hudson Swafford. These are guys who aren't that old, who are sort of in the primes of their PGA Tour careers, guys who have each won already this season, who have exemptions. They're not worried about, I might lose my card, so let me jump ship before I lose it. These guys are good for the next few years if they want to be. These are the guys that I don't think they ever considered losing. They never thought that a Taylor Gooch, a Hudson Swafford was going to go anywhere. So I think they're scared about that. They're scared about the precedent now of, okay, we can lose the guys who are 47 years old. We can lose the guys who don't have a card. We can't lose the guys who are the nuts and bolts of the PGA Tour, the guys who play 25 weeks a year. That's really going to hurt them, I think, if it continues to happen.
The two names, at least from my perspective, social media and just reading everything you guys have been writing and talking about, Bryson and Ricky. Thoughts on those two guys? Is it inevitable that they end up involved in this one day?
Look, I'm not saying anything is inevitable right now with the way the news cycle is. I mean, things change in a hurry right now, as I was saying earlier. But I would say where there's smoke, there's fire. And if you've heard the names, there's probably reason that you've heard the names. Each of those players has been at least open to the idea of listening to LIV Golf and hearing them out and not automatically shutting them down and saying, I will never do that. And so I think it would be very surprising to see, say, a Rory McIlroy who's been adamantly against it the entire time, a Justin Thomas who has spoken out and said, nah, not interested, not doing that. For a Ricky Fowler, for a Bryson DeChambeau, each of whom said, it's an interesting opportunity. I'm going to weigh my options. I'll see what's out there. It's not a yes, but it's certainly not a no.
Listen, we can say what we want about Bryson. Obviously, Ricky had a good run, and you could argue maybe it's over. And I know Bryson's, been banged up and played like shit at the Memorial. That would be a devastating loss for the PGA Tour. I mean, he's a needle mover for them. I mean, do you agree? That'd be a big deal if he did a quote unquote I resign and I'm out.
It's a big deal. Both of those are big deals. I see them as, I don't know how to rate them necessarily, but I think each of them might be maybe even a bigger deal than Dustin Johnson. Dustin Johnson might be a better player right now than either of them, but you're talking about drawing cards, you're talking about eyeballs. I mean, I've watched that countless times over the last dozen years where Ricky Fowler walks off the golf course after shooting a 74 and signs autographs for an hour and a half and has kids in Puma hats and Puma shirts throwing Sharpies at him because they love him so much. To lose a guy like that, yeah, that's going to hurt the brand name and marketability of the PGA Tour.
It shows you this is a little bit of a win for LIV because we're 15, 20 minutes in. We haven't even mentioned the PGA tournament this week. And I mean, that shows you, man. I mean, and like you wrote, that nobody's playing in this thing. It's pretty top heavy. There are some big names. We haven't even mentioned it, but let's mention it now. Who do you like?
Yeah, very top heavy field. And so I wonder, here's a little conspiracy for you. I wonder if the PGA Tour went to the likes of Scotty Scheffler, Rory McIlroy, Justin Thomas, Sam Burns, went to these guys, Cameron Smith, and said, hey, there's another event going on this week. We need to deflect some of the attention away from LIV Golf. The best way for us to deflect that attention is having some big names playing our event. We need you. I wonder if they told them that you have to come play because, look, we're going to get crushed if we have a worse field than LIV Golf during their first event. And so you look at it and you say, okay, those 5 of the top 10 players are playing this week. Hey, it's a great field. It's 9 of the top 25. And then it's only 12 of the top 50. I mean, the drop-off is dramatic. And so this is not a deep field whatsoever. If you're looking at the top of the board and you're trying to pick a guy, Rory probably needs the win more so than anybody else in the top 10. The other guys have all won, and they've won pretty recently. Rory won this event 3 years ago, granted a completely different golf course, but you talk about trying to gain some momentum going into a major championship. Also, maybe a little karma play for Rory, who's been so outspoken against LIV Golf that maybe he wants to sort of show off a little bit and say, hey, let me take the spotlight away from that other event that's going on. So if I've got to pick one of these guys, it's Rory, but based on the prices, they're so short in a field that's not deep. I'm not chasing anybody in the marketplace.
Well, I know that you picked Rose and another name at FanDuel. He's 50-1, and Thagala, who played pretty well last week. I mean, the guy's got game, and even you wrote, and we've been talking about it. Like, I think him and Davis Riley are similar. They're going to win at a price point that's like, damn, you could have got this guy at 50-1. You could have got this guy at 45-1. It feels inevitable for both guys, right? Yeah,
I think so. I like those guys. Essentially, the strategy this week, and you're right, my favorite outright was Justin Rose. It's not me saying, I love Justin Rose. I think he's the best player. He's going to win this week. Now it's more, I don't necessarily like playing anybody at 7-1, 8-1. These guys who are super short.
Cam Smith is 11-1 right
now.
Yeah,
they're looking ahead to a major championship next week. Who knows how motivated they are. And so I just want to take a shot at some guys who are in that 50-1 to 75-1 range. Take 2, 3, 4, 5 guys and at least have a chance of, hey, I can win with a bigger price, a bigger number, as opposed to, such a small payout on a guy who's 8-1 instead.
I know. I like it. Real quick before I get you out of here, do you think what's your expectation this weekend from the LIV stuff? Like, obviously it's going to be on YouTube. There are going to be some moments that probably go viral or whatever. Do you think they probably put some social media influencers on the payroll? I mean, what's your expectation for the next come Sunday? Like, what happened over the couple days?
So far, the PR for this thing, the social media presence for this thing has been almost non-existent. And so what it tells me is that this ain't about us. It's just not. This is not about, hey, let's have a fun entertainment vehicle that provides an alternative for the fans. This is not about the fans. Now, if you want to put on YouTube TV on Thursday morning and watch the LIV event,
Friday, no, Sobel, 54 holes.
Thursday through Saturday, I believe.
Oh, it's Thursday through Saturday. Oh,
Yes.
so they're not even going Sunday. Okay.
Yeah,
Shit,
Thursday through Saturday. Yeah, so you want to put on the LIV Golf event. It's going to be a shotgun. You want to watch it? I'm not going to say no. They'll let you do it. But quite frankly, I don't get the sense that they care necessarily if they have 1 million views or 100 views. It just doesn't matter to them. This is about causing a disruption. This is about changing the messaging for their government. It's not about, hey, let's create something for the fans out there. Let's grow the game. That's the last thing on their priority list right now.
I saw that they polled people and came up with people like the consumer wants a shotgun start. What's your take on the shotgun?
Okay, we sit here and talk about betting every single week here on the pod, John. A shotgun start might be the worst idea for betting. Where are all sports going right now? What's the biggest thing going on in all sports?
Odds.
Hey, betting, odds. We can put some money on this stuff. We can have a personal investment while we watch. Okay, what does the LIV Golf Tour do? Let's have a shotgun start where it's terrible for betting. You can't watch everything going on at the same time. Things are going to flip too quickly. It's completely anti-gambling, which again, if you're trying to draw in the fans, you're trying to get eyeballs, you're trying to get people to watch, that's the last thing you want to do. So again, it just tells me they don't care. They just don't care.
Well, isn't the drama of winning a golf tournament that last day, the setup of where they're staggered on the holes? Like this guy's leading, but he's on hole 15. The leader's only on hole 9. He still has, like, that's part of the drama of a Sunday of golf and to win.
Of course. I mean, maybe it'll be fun to watch, bouncing around to different holes. Hey, they all have 2 holes left and he's on 13 and he's on 7 and they each are tied for the lead. I don't know. Maybe that'll be fun. I don't mind a shotgun start for the first round. Hey, let's get them all out there, get them playing quick. That's cool. But then repair and have it a regular event afterwards. I mean, look, they're trying stuff. It's fine. But again, it just doesn't seem like it would fit the needs of the consumer right now. And which just tells me they don't care about the consumer.
No, I agree.
It's about them. It's not about us.
Well, Sobel, I know where we can find you Thursday through Saturday in front of your computer watching LIV Golf on YouTube, and enjoy the weekend. And I'll talk to you next week. You Phil Mickelson press conference. Can't wait.
Next week. I mean, I firmly believe that everything in golf will have changed by the time we talk next week. We just talked for 20, 30 minutes, and I can't wait to go on Twitter and see who's defected and what leagues are popping up now. It's amazing.
Well, take it easy, man. Have a good week and enjoy the LIV.
Thanks, dude.
See ya.